Stop. Yeah, I'm just really fast.
A lot of okay, get hour. But I don't get because I added the new core. 52.
You may call your sleep.
No, he wakes up. I guess it's called a dance. Oh, I guess it's more like.
Trust me, you just want to say, I just want to say.
We'll get started in a few minutes. If you haven't gotten food already, please go ahead and do that. And we'll start in the next like 2 or 3.
Sandwiches and fries. Yeah, there's vegetarians. There is vegetarian.
Vegetarian. I saw that, I was like, I gluten-free bread on my vegetarian. Like, oh,
They use these as.
oh, see, I love it.
Yeah, it's like. I want to see it.
I just. Yeah, that would be.
Oh, I didn't.
I remember.
My name's Jordan Element.
Heard he's not a good.
I mean, he's friendly.
Yeah, he's nice.
Oh, I had an invaded. The problem was,
Oh, my friend told me. He didn't like any midterms or finals, but then he did grade the homework. After.
All right, as you guys get some food and settle in, we'll go ahead and get started.
and the time.
All right, I want to thank everybody for coming. This is our second breaking into tech panel, and this one, of course, just for technical roles. So this is something we haven't done really before, other than just once this quarter. So we're really excited to see folks come out and we assembled a dream team of panelists, and we're excited for them to be able to share some insight with you. First, I'd like to do the land acknowledgement. So we pause to acknowledge that Santa Clara sits on the land of the Ohlone and the Muwekma Ohlone people. We remember their continued connection to this region and give thanks to them for allowing us to live, work, learn, and pray on their traditional homeland. We offer our respect to their elders and to all the Ohlone people of the past and the present. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Andrew Gupton. I am the Assistant Director of Employer Connections, the Santa Clara University Career Center, which is a mouthful. If many of you probably actually heard from me before, my role is to engage employers and bring them to campus to talk with you. In this case, this isn't really a recruitment event. This is for you to learn and hear from people that are actually working in the tech field. I want to welcome our cadre of panelists. They're all going to introduce themselves, so I won't go into too much detail, but starting from the back and moving forward, Brian Manzano, who does essentially everything, Abasi Lewis, Chris Cedro, and Kalea Lucio. They're going to talk to you about their roles and what they do. But one thing to note is that they're all alumni. So not only are they successful tech professionals, but they're also Santa Clara alums. I also want to call out our student work representatives. So we have a number of student organization co-sponsors for this event. I'd like to recognize the three, well, actually, it looks like we have almost the full ACM cadre here too. So ACM there in the corner. AWM, so the Association of Women Mathematics, those are the folks that help to check you in and guide you to your seat. And then we have one member from Theta Tau that will, be here networking with all of you. Great. So I think all the logistics out of the way, I think we're ready to get started. Can everybody hear me okay? Good. So our first question, this one's a layup. Just a 30-second intro. Your name, your role, what was your major, and maybe a fun fact that few people or maybe no one knows about you. I want to start with.
Yeah, I'm Haley Alessio. I'm a user experience researcher or UX researcher at Google. I've been there 6 years. And I studied biology and French. And I'm a pretty open book. I don't think there's anything about me that no one knows. But a fun fact is that I used to be a synchronized swimmer for many years. And 3 of my teammates are Olympians. I was never that good though.
My name is Chris Cedro, class of 1999, computer engineering. My current role at SAP is Senior Manager of Technology and Innovation with global sponsorships. Fun fact about me is I was once a Wheel of Fortune contestant.
Did you win?
Yes, I won 41,000. Yeah. Killer is a fun fact.
Do we have anybody that watches Wheel of Fortune out there? I'm just saying for networking purposes. It's like a top that just won't go away.
Hi, my name is Obasi Lewis. I am a technology analyst at Accenture. I graduated from SCU in 2020 and did my grad program here. Graduated this June. My major was engineering management. My other major was engineering physics. And the fun fact about me is that I am a great uncle. Great.
Hi, everyone. My name is Mariah Manzano. I graduated in 2020. My major was web design and engineering. It's in the computer engineering department. And I also had a minor in technical innovation and entrepreneurship. Right after graduation, I worked at Cisco as a software engineer, then hopped over to a startup where I was a product manager. And nowadays I'm really diving into my own entrepreneurial pursuits. So back in college, I started a company with a couple of friends called Opal. The purpose of it, our mission is to find mentors for college students. It felt like something we were lacking when we were here. And when I'm not working on Opal these days, I'm a freelancer. So I do mostly web design and development. So literally using everything I studied in my day-to-day.
Excellent, thank you. Hopefully you all noticed that we have a wide variety of backgrounds and functional disciplines. So there's a variety of insight that we'll be able to get from our panelists. Second question, and I think maybe this time we'll start on the end and go back this way. Can you share a little bit more information about your career path and some of the steps you took to get to where you are?
Yes, I will start with this. So I actually didn't have an internship till between junior and senior year. I interned at NASA as a design intern, and that had a lot to do with both product design and software engineering. But before that, I worked on campus all 4 years as a web developer. So a lot of my experience while I was at school was there. And then I got super involved with the Sioka Center for Innovation and Entrepreneurship here on campus. And it was through my entrepreneurship minor that I was sort of motivated to start a business and just see what happened. So that was super impactful. And then, of course, like my major, the internships and all the projects helped with my software engineering role right after college. But that's a little bit about my my career background.
Awesome, wonderful. If I could also ask just our panelists to maybe get a little closer to the mics too, just to make sure it's.
So a little bit about my background. I also didn't have an internship until my junior summer, junior to senior. My first internship was at US Bank as a technology intern. I worked on dashboards in Tableau and Excel. I then returned as a graduate intern the next year, and then went to Salesforce to intern the following year. And then applied and got accepted to Accenture. So that was sort of my career journey. Most of my work has been in like data visualization and analysis. And it actually doesn't have a direct correlation to my major in undergrad, since I was a physics major. There's of course data within physics, but it's not a direct application. So that was a cool way to explore through internships what my career path could be.
So I definitely have the longest career path here, being class of '99. I did intern at IBM before I graduated. There was a building on Cottle Road way back, and that building is long gone now. I was doing software development, basically testing on hard drives. But when I graduated in '99, that was in the middle of the .com boom. And so it was pretty easy to find a job back then. So I joined a startup. I was there for like 9 months, but the working hours were crazy. It was literally working from like
learning on the job.
10 in the morning till as late as they wanted you to be there. And being young, I didn't want that kind of life, so I left. And then I actually joined SAP in 2000. So I was there as a software developer for quite a while, just working on different products. But as I progressed, I did get my MBA back here in 2012 with the hopes of moving into product management. That didn't necessarily pan out, but I was able to move within SAP and became like a solutions architect within custom development. And from there, I picked up an interest in project management. So then I became a technical project manager after that. Got my PMP, and now I work with, I moved into marketing in SAP. So I work with, currently work with our sports and entertainment partners, managing their technology, making sure that they get the most out of our solutions. So that way we can tell a great story to the market. So the teams I work with is 49ers, the San Jose Sharks, and actually now my latest one is New Zealand Rugby. So I had to venture out to New Zealand, got to experience the hockey dance in person. So yeah, my job is taking you through a lot of different paths, you know.
So I didn't know that my career existed when I was in college. I didn't know it existed until I was about 25, which is why I do these, so that all of you guys know it exists. So I studied biology. I wanted to be a biomedical researcher. So I worked in a bunch of labs, worked in a lab after graduating, was going to get my PhD in molecular biology. And I realized that I like research, but I don't like working in a lab. There's a lot of stuff that I did not like about it. And I had no idea what else you could do with a biology degree. So I just kind of flailed around. I sold clothes at Nordstrom. I worked as an admin at various companies. And one of those companies was IDEO, which is a design and research consultancy. And so that's how I learned that user research exists. They have a bunch of researchers there. So then I just kind of started researching the researchers. I would sign up to be their participant and kind of learn about their process and join their meetings, and absolutely fell in love with it. And then I read a bunch of books on the topic. I took some Coursera classes. I volunteered with some people here and there to start building up a portfolio of research. And then I just cold call emailed some research agencies, and one of them was crazy enough to take a chance on me. So I worked there for a couple of years. I started my master's while working full time. And then my manager from there started at Google. So I followed her to Google first as a contractor, and then as a full-time employee. I've been there 6 years.
Love that. Hopefully one thing that you're all noticing is that there really is not one linear path to get to a certain place, right? So I think all of our panelists are a really good example of that. And I'd also love to take this opportunity to remind everybody that you have sticky notes and pens on your table. So as our panelists are talking, if you think of a question you'd like to ask, we will have time for that at the end. So, okay, so this is a question that I think gets asked commonly in panels, and it's for anybody, so it's just kind of a free for all. I know that there probably is not a typical day, but if you could take your best shot at describing what a typical day looks like, I think it would be interesting for our students to know. To anybody who's got it.
As a software developer, yeah, it is coding all day long. I'm not gonna lie. You know, with all this, with Agile and Scrum, you know, you have like your list, you're trying to fit everything within a sprint. So yeah, you just have your tasks and you're trying to get those done. Luckily, I'm not a software developer anymore. So my typical day is pretty much phone calls. So I'm talking with my partners, I'm talking to other product people, I'm trying to understand the product that SAP provides, see how that fits the needs of my partner, see if, you know, there are the gaps that they can fill. Because like I said, my job is to make sure that, you know, we can tell a good story. So if we try to appeal to executives' love for sports and entertainment, say, hey, oh wow, Niners do that. So hey, we could totally do that in our company. So that's pretty much what I do on a day-to-day basis. Not every day is busy, you know, but I'm always trying to keep myself informed of what's going on in the market, what's going on with SAP and even with my partners. That's my typical day.
I'll go. I'd say about half my day is meetings with various people for various reasons. And then the other half is dedicated to my research. And I'm usually running maybe like 3 different studies at one time. So I might spend a few hours preparing for a study that I will run in the future, maybe writing a research plan, writing down the questions that I'll be testing. And then I might spend some hours analyzing some data from a survey I ran before, or presenting some of the research to the people that are building the product.
In consulting, it really varies depending on who your client is or what project you're assigned to or working on. My most recent project was internal, actually, working on projecting the sales for our 2023 fiscal year, which started September 1st. So that was mostly meeting with senior leaders within Accenture and going through building them the dashboards that they needed and going through sort of their projections and helping them refine a little bit. With external clients, it could be meeting for daily stand-up and then implementing the tasks that they assign and I'll rinse repeat the next day.
I'll just briefly add, for freelancing specifically, I would say a quarter to a third of my day is just understanding requirements from clients. As a product manager, when I was creating the requirements and then software engineer given the requirements, getting requirements from like non-technical people who have a vague idea of what they're looking for is very difficult. So asking the right questions to try to get it out of them is has been good for me, good practicing patience a lot of the time. But it's fun. And then the other part of my day is just execution. So building out, designing a website, and then asking for feedback and pretty much starting over the next day.
Awesome. Would it be fair to say that a common theme across all of your very different jobs is like cross-functional communication or just working with other people, right? So even in technical roles, there's still that element of like being able to collaborate with other people. Okay, so maybe we'll go back to like an order now. I don't know. I'm just trying to keep you guys on your toes. So Kalea, if I can start with you. Can you share a little bit more about what you like about your work environment? And is there anything that you could change?
Yeah. Some of the things I like the variability. There is no one, standard day that I have. I like that I get to travel. My job before this one was conducting research exclusively in India, so we go to India quite a bit. And the stuff we work on is super cool. I like building cool products that I use, every day and making them better. And what I don't like, I wouldn't say there's anything that I don't like about my company or the job that I do. I think the challenges I face are because I've encountered a place where I need to grow, a skill that I need to develop, usually soft skills. So I run my research, but changes aren't being made based on it. Well, that means that I need to get better at influencing people, at communicating, at knowing who the right people are to communicate with. So those kinds of challenges are, I don't like them, but they're necessary evils in order for me to improve.
I won't lie, I get perks as being in the sponsorship team, so I get to go to Niner games, I get to go to Warrior games, I get to go to Sharks games, in suites. So that I definitely love that perk, I can't lie about that. But what I would change is, working with sports teams is that their IT teams are quite small. They're not agile, they're not quick to react because that's not their core competency. Their core competency is whatever they put on the field. I love sports, so I've always wanted to get into the sports field. So yeah, I wish it would be a little bit faster. Having transitioned from services to this, and services was always fast paced. I'm receiving what customers would want, what do they want to see, how fast they want things, and now it's a little slower pace. So I wish, I like the slow pace, but I kind of wish it would be a little quicker. But I also have to, instead of being a receiver, I have to be more proactive and actually try to come up with ideas, innovate. What could SAP do for the Niner and Sharks, New Zealand rugby? I have to be more creative, so I do like that. It's a different change. So yeah.
I would say I like most the flexibility to sort of work with a bunch of different companies that they are your clients. Accenture, I think, has 90 something of the top Fortune 100 companies that they work with. So there's a lot of different industries, a lot of different clients that you can wind up working with, and just a lot of their variability in the work that you can wind up doing. And there's also so much room to move around within the company. I'm right now in the technology development program. There's also consulting, development program strategy. Industry X is a new one. So there's just a lot of different mobility. And I guess something that I don't necessarily like as much is because it's such a huge company, we're sort of all spread out. So it's hard to meet people, or if you do go into the office, there's not like that consistency of the same people every day that will be at the office. So, but I feel like that's kind of everywhere now with the remote or hybrid work environment. So that's just a general thing.
For me, since graduating in 2020, I've been totally remote. So it's a Cisco startup, and then of course working for myself. I'm going to be home. So I think that's like the best. My favorite and least favorite thing is that I'm totally remote. Favorite because at least right now in my life, like I'm enjoying traveling a bunch. So I've become a bit of a digital nomad. And if you're like interested in traveling, then I think like remote work is a good option. So I like lived in New York for a little bit last year and have been able to travel a bunch this year. Wow, as long as I have Wi-Fi, I can still do my job. So that's what I love. At the same time, similar to when we were all stuck inside, you can get cabin fever living at home and working at home. So the only thing I would change is getting outside more, really. Like that's the bottom line. And by that, I mean, even if it's going to a coffee shop, especially if you're in the Bay Area, there's going to be 50 other people in there on their laptops also working. the remote jobs, but it's kind of nice. It's like, it feels like a community. So whether it's a coffee shop or a WeWork, I need to get outside more.
Love that. I think good life advice. But also maybe something to keep in mind too, is you consider what your careers are, pros and cons, right? And looking at what's most important to you and understanding like, there's also going to be some drawbacks too, right? Okay, so maybe starting on the end now and coming this way. What advice do you wish you would have received as an undergrad? And do you have any recommendations for our students for technical jobs?
A few things come to mind. The first is, I think especially when you're looking for like an internship or your full-time role, like whatever offer you get, you might think like, I'm just gonna go with it. I'm just gonna go with it no matter what it is. Honestly, in times of desperation, I don't blame you. But I do wish I told myself to really consider a little bit more about, you know, the company culture, like what I'm working on. Like you have to wake up assuming it's a full-time role, you have to wake up every morning and work on something for much of your day. So really consider like the work you're doing, the product you're working on is something you're motivated to wake up and work on. It seems very simple, but I would say that. The other thing I want to mention is, obviously I'm very startup oriented now. And I think when I was in college, I didn't give working at a startup enough of a chance. And so I think I would consider that more. It's not always about like the big name. If it's a mission you believe in and a product again, that you think you'd be excited working on, it's definitely worth trying.
I would second all of that for sure. I would add to start applying early and often. But apply more strategically, staying at a bunch of resumes. Reach out to maybe the recruiter or someone you know at the company. Use the LinkedIn feature through SCU to find alumni or people that you already know that are current students that might have interned or worked at the company in the past and might be able to refer you or have a manager or contact at the company. Because there can be a lot of time spent applying to jobs where your resume might not even get looked at by a human if you're not like at the top of the list and have that priority. So networking, I think, is very important to start moving early, especially in clubs like these. That's a great place to start.
Third, all of that. Yeah, don't just pick the first job. I know that's what I did. Pick the first job. And even when I joined SAP, I didn't even know what SAP was. I just picked it because I didn't want to be in a startup anymore. I mean, it worked out for me in the long run, but definitely was not happy in the beginning because I just rushed into it. And then I just learned over time that networking is really key. You know, just getting to know people, talking to people, just creating that connection, because you never know what may lead you down the road. And my current job, I didn't actually network to get into it. I just cold applied and I got lucky, but I think that's part of like just my past experience and what I built up just through networks, because I didn't get to where I was without networking. And then those experiences led me to where I am today, and I'm pretty happy. When it comes undergrad internships, yeah, I would say also just look for something you're passionate about. I think that's the thing. That's because you want to enjoy what you're doing. So try to, as much as possible, try to link your job with something you're passionate about.
All right, I'm gonna go totally against the grain here. So I think there's so much pressure right now in your lives to pick the perfect job and to pick the perfect role in this job. And it feels like your whole life is going to depend on this first job or this first internship. And unless you pick the right one, you're totally screwed. And it is not the case at all. You don't have to figure out what you want to do with your life right now. You just have to figure out what you want to do right now. And get a job that's close to that. And then figure out what you like and figure out what you don't like emotionally, regardless of the title, you know, and get another job that's more of the stuff that you like and less of the stuff that you hate, and just keep doing that. And through that, you might, change titles, change industries, change completely what you do. But at the end, you'll end up with something that feels good to you. Also, in terms of picking a job, if it's a smaller company, I agree, pick something, a product that you're passionate about. But if you're applying to a larger company, pick one that has a culture where you think that you're going to be happy with people that you think you're going to be happy working with. And that somewhere in the company, there's something cool that you'd eventually want to work on. And then just get your foot in the door working on anything. So my first 3 years at Google, I worked on the stupidest bullshit. I don't work here, sorry. Like I worked on YouTube TV for 2 years, which I think is a useless product, and Netflix is way better. And then YouTube had a direct message. What you like? Sam likes sports. You like sports. That's the only reason.
Regular TV.
And then I worked on a direct messaging feature like Instagram Messenger on YouTube. Nobody wants that. Like nobody wants. I worked on that for a full year from day one. I'm like, no one wants this. But I knew eventually I'd work on something cool. Right now I work on voice control in cars, and it is the coolest thing ever, and I use it every day, and I'm super passionate about it. And because I knew that was there, or like a bunch of other things, right? They have so many cool things where it's like, oh yeah, eventually I might want to work on one of these things. Then you can just get in the door. So a little contrarian compared to everyone else. But again, that only works for like a larger company versus a smaller company.
But also I think the variety of experience too, right? So, there may not be in one right way to get to where you're going. And I would also just add a shameless plug. If you are thinking about this, you can and should stop by the career center and talk with somebody about like what that first job is. Okay, so again, rapid fire, but just based on time, like, if you don't feel like answering the question, you don't have to. So you don't have to get everybody to answer. When you were thinking about your career after college, what were your thoughts about the tech industry, and how did it, if at all, shape your career?
You repeat the question? Who? Is to the panel?
This is to the panel,
Oh.
yes. Yeah.
Yeah, repeat the question.
Okay. When you were thinking about your career after college, what were your thoughts about the tech industry?
I could start. So again, I studied web design and engineering. And whenever I would talk to recruiters at career fairs, especially at larger companies, I felt this sense that I needed to be siloed into one side of that. So pick product design or pick software engineering, but you can't have both. So that was kind of my assumption going in when I was interviewing during my senior year for roles post-grad. That's something I asked, like, can I use these different skill sets? I mean, ultimately I want to get into the product. So being super transparent up front of like what I want to learn and how I can sort of use multiple skills on a job, that helped me find a role ultimately at Cisco where they wanted me to use all of these things because they found value in that. If they could get it all from one person, that was helpful. So I would just say be transparent. Some people are gonna shake their head and it's not allowed at their companies, but some company will bring you in with open arms based on what you want to work on.
I would also say, I assumed that you had to have a degree within the specific field that you're going into. My undergrad degree was in physics, and that wasn't necessarily the case for me. I wanted to go into something a little bit more technical and apply my technical knowledge like within the booming Bay Area. And just like getting your foot in the door at a company, like you were saying, is like the sort of the way to go. Just start building that knowledge base, start building your network. Because what you learn in the classroom isn't necessarily what you're going to be doing in the job in the workplace. So just getting that actual real life experience is very valuable, even if it's just for a couple months.
Long time ago.
I'm like the Diane Sawyer of moderators. The questions get tougher as we go.
A long time ago. I can't answer that.
No, it's okay. Actually, to piggyback, for lack of a better term, on some of those responses, I think it would be good to know how have your technical skills evolved in the roles that you've been in, and how do you want to see your skills continue to evolve?
Hey, Carlin. So UX research is basically the scientific method, but applied differently than if you're looking at cells, right? So the scientific method I learned at Santa Clara, backwards and forwards. I did go to grad school, but I still think most of what I learned studying biology at Santa Clara prepared me. But I needed to learn how to apply the scientific method to work on products. So just kind of learning some nuance of different types of methods. So that I learned mostly on the job, and a little bit in grad school. And then it took me a few years to learn that the technical skills get you in the door. They get you that entry-level job, they get you to the mid-level job. But what gets you to be a senior researcher, a manager, or an executive is all of those soft skills that the business students are learning, but we in STEM are not learning. So how to negotiate, how to influence, how to collaborate, effective presentation skills. That is ultimately what matters after the first 3 years in your career, not your technical skills. So if you can take electives in that area, do that now.
For me, I've gone from being low level to high level, so that's how it evolved for me, but without that low level, I don't think I could understand the higher level. And it helps me understand when people are talking to me and trying to explain things that are a little more technical. I'm not there just like, what are you just tuning out? So it's good to have that, that foundation, so that way you can progress. If you want to progress into more, management or higher level type of jobs.
Okay. Actually, this is good timing because I'd like to invite a student, Bosher from ACM, to ask the final 2 questions. Just so you're not hearing from me all the time. Come on down. You can take the mic too. I'll walk around.
Right. One quick question. Do you see any relevant trends in the technical world that you recommend students pay attention to? And are there any additional words of advice that you have for undergrad students that are looking to enter the tech industry?
I can tell y'all a little bit about what Accenture is focusing on in terms of trends. A lot of our work is around blockchain, and the metaverse is sort of what's really trending in the company right now. I think our Meta just had, formerly Facebook, technically still Facebook, just had their big conference last week or early this week, and Accenture is really excited about being more involved in that. We all got VR headsets, or you can request one, to sort of start building that virtual workspace, and that's been really fun. And then blockchain, I'm not that invested in, but it seems like a very cool emerging technology for smart contracts and applications, not just within crypto, but within just like those instances of supply chain.
Do you really believe in the metaverse though?
I'll just add there will always be a lot of trends. There's going to be as you graduate and far along after that as well. This is sort of like a disclaimer to anything that's trending, blockchain, like Web3, metaverse, that's all trending right now. But I will say you have to like know and love the foundational courses as well to do any of that. So even though like machine learning or a class like that might be like super excited, don't forget that data structures class. That's all I want to say about trending things. And then in terms of advice, I will say I grew up a perfectionist. I didn't like asking for help either. Just want to do it all by myself. I would recommend against that, like strongly against that. So talk to as many people as you can. If you're about to do an interview at a company, chat with as many people as you can to prepare for that. Yeah, network, as Chris said earlier.
By the way, I should have said at the beginning, none of this is Google's view. This is all Maggie's. I am kind of curious what role AI is going to start playing in design and how much AI will do design work. I don't personally do any design, but I work with designers, so that might be something that might change UX research and UX design over the next 10 years or so. Whether you should like look deeply into this or not, I don't know. If you're going to be a designer, then probably, but if you're going to be a researcher, then
I'll say, one thing I know that we're doing is low code. So enabling our users to be able to do things themselves. So if you're in software, you definitely want to not say look at the low code, but how do you enable? So, of course, every company has their own ways of like enabling low code, but that's something I noticed that we're doing rather than our customers asking us to, hey, can you do this for me? You create this for me. No, you can do it yourself. We're enabling you. Yeah, low code, that's something I see.
Just really quickly, I want to add that there are a lot of trends, but there's also a lot of reliable industries like contracting, especially with the government. Is one of the things that probably will be around for a very long time. So it's important to look at where things are growing, but also if you want that reliability, I think that's pretty valuable as well.
Another quick question. We've heard a lot about the creative roles that you guys have, but I'm curious, how have your companies or your teams helped foster your passion to your group?
Google's pretty good at this. There's a lot of, if you're a full-time employee, there are internal classes that are taught by other Googlers on like any topic you can imagine that you can just sign up for. And we also get a stipend for education outside of work, which could be related to your job, or it could be like a lottery class or something like that, or going to conferences, that kind of stuff.
I'd have to say you have to take control of your career. In my experience, like trying to hope that the company will help you grow. They're not, I mean, they will, but you have to take control. You have to take it by the horns, do whatever you can to like, get into spots like I said with networking. That's like the biggest thing I think. It's just not gonna be handed to you. They'll have programs, but yeah, well, it's not gonna be on a silver platter.
So sort of piggybacking off that, just participate in a lot of the opportunities that are presented to you. A lot of companies will have learning opportunities, internal or external. Right now I'm doing a training in Google Cloud, which has been really fun. And just like trying to learn as much as I can while on the job. And then just also mentoring and keeping in contact with your mentors. I still keep in contact with my first manager from my first internship, and she's very sweet. She like introduced me to the world of project management, which I never knew existed before I had that internship. And yeah, so just keep in contact with those who you have a good relationship with. I think it's very important.
I'm gonna send my piggyback as well. I'm so sorry. But whether I was at a big company like Cisco or now working for myself, the like motivation and willingness to learn has always been on me. So I think like Chris mentioned, like it's really on yourself to sort of make that time to grow personally. And then I wanted to add, they were all alluding to it, but I was told in college to make a personal board of advisors. This is when I was getting into entrepreneurship, and I could not recommend that more. It's essentially made up of mentors, like whoever, close friends, family members, whoever you need, whoever you're like, when you think of a support system, these are the people you think of. If you have that, then whether it's you want to explore something new or grow in your current career, those people will be there for you. So I would definitely recommend making your own board of advisors.
Awesome. So we do have some time for some Q&A. I think. What sticky notes are you want?
Yeah, so did anybody write down questions that they had? Perfect. And do you want me to, you can stand up and ask it if you want, or we'll ask it for you.
Sure.
So kind of how we were just talking, and motivation, passion about your career, your product, your company has come up frequently. So, but like, as a person, like what keeps you motivated to keep improving on yourself or on the product, like on that aspect of just not only staying interested, but in innovating?
Just that I've always sort of had this thing of not wanting, like, if I at least stay doing a thing for a while, or doing the same thing repetitively, I'll get bored after a while. So the desire to keep learning and growing is just sort of out of not wanting to, out of a lack of better words, like I don't want to be bored in my job. So I want to keep sort of having a constant state of change, which I think is a great tool for learning. It's just to keep changing and evolving as you move throughout life.
I think that's where it does help to be passionate about the project that you're working on. You don't have to be passionate to get in the door, but eventually you want to work on something you care about, and then you're just motivated to just keep learning more about it. It's exciting. And also doing stuff like this, I do a lot of mentoring of people who are just becoming user researchers or transitioning into user researchers, and doing this kind of thing kind of reminds me like, oh yeah, I love this career, versus in like the day-to-day life, you get bogged down and like, no one's listening to my research, and then it can be kind of tough.
My case, it's a little different now. Before I used to be, I am self-motivated, but I think because of perks I get, I feel like I have to keep proving my value, my worth, and also with the partners I work with, I do want to make them successful, and ultimately, because if they do well, in with whatever we're providing them, then makes me feel good internally, and also just of course it makes me look good too. So so there is a little more not deprecating, what's the word, more like self-fulfilling, I think, not really fulfilling, but it's really more just to make myself feel better ultimately, I guess, that I'm doing a good job.
I'll just quickly add, similar to what Abasi said, like repetition after a while makes me go insane, to be honest. If nothing changed, then I would just get bored at the end of the day. Studying like design thinking, entrepreneurship in college helped me so much. I can't even like go to a gas station without being like, they should really change this or that about it. So the more you can sort of, you don't have to be like at a big company or a startup even to be like innovative. It can be in your everyday life. Sometimes it starts there. So I will say, if you like put that into practice, if you experience something and you're like, this kind of sucks the way that they do this thing, and you think about possible solutions, then when you get to work and it's like second nature to you, you'll be the innovator on that team.
Thank you.
Also to add, I listen to like a lot of podcasts and that kind of stuff, and like read articles about industry trends. Just hearing like what's happening in adjacent industry kind of gives me inspiration.
Right, any other questions?
So interning at a company can be really different from working full-time, in that you see things through rose-tinted glasses. I was wondering if there are some key things that you think that we should look out for that are indicative of actually working at the company if you were looking to convert to full-time.
Great questions.
When I was interning, I would always look for people to talk to that have been working there for a while, and I always started a networking conversation with like a disarming, like fun icebreaker. I think last summer it was, what's a movie that you hated and one that you loved? Just sort of disarm and let them be more fluid and open and honest, and try to get their actual opinion of the company and what their normal day-to-day is, if they're overstressed, overworked, always working long hours or something like that. And also varying in teams, I think, was key. Because if you decide to return to a company, you want to know, oh, well, I don't want to go to that team, or I really, really want to go to this team, because they have a good culture. that sort of was my process last summer.
Does Google allows to shift our roles? Like if we join in one role, we don't like it. Like, can we like switch to our role?
Yeah, like a totally different role, like you start as an engineer and you become a product manager, or just like you're a researcher and you work on one thing and you work on both are allowed. So there's a program specifically for people who are not product managers who want to become product managers. I don't know too many people who have totally shifted the type of role that they do, but I've been there 6 years and I've worked on 4 totally different teams, totally different products, so that happens very frequently.
Probably have time for like 1 or 2 more maybe, so.
Hi, I'm a freshman at Santa Fe right now, and I'm a comp sci major. I'm kind of a hesitant one. I really am interested in ethics and technology and just working at companies to see, how they use the technology that they develop to like help, disadvantaged communities or like third world countries. I'm very interested in that, but I really don't know anything else past that. And I can't really study anything past that until I do like my prereqs for comp sci that I'm just whirling over. So how do I deal with that? Like, I mean, I'm sure that you guys had to deal with that as well with your first jobs and looking for the future. And additionally, you were saying that you were a physics major and you're doing something totally different from that. How did you transition from physics major to your first job to today?
So I actually started off as a computer science engineering major. As a freshman, and I think you might have shifted sophomore year. Because I really loved the department chair in physics. She was, I don't know if she's still the chair, but she was an amazing professor, one of the, in my opinion, one of the best of the school. And she taught me just sort of the method of how to think about problems and how that can apply to physics, but also many other situations within science and technology. And I think first, like speaking to your advisor about sort of where you want to grow within the field, or within your like path at SCU, and seeing if there are any classes offered, not just in like engineering, which I think there are, computer science, but I think there might be, but also see if there's any like business electives that you can take that might closer align to your long-term goals or like aspirations. And just trying to, you're so early off, it's only October. So you have quite a bit of time to figure it out, but just like taking classes that seem interesting to you and growing from there.
Do you mind repeating your first question? Was it like how to get more experience in social business?
It was like, it was your question, yeah.
No.
Just about like understanding when you're looking at something that hasn't necessarily become prominent in the tech industry, how you can focus on it without being like, too early in it, if that makes sense.
I see. Some immediate thoughts for me is you would be surprised by like teams within really big companies and then specific startups that are like mission-based work 24/7. There's software engineering roles that are paid at nonprofits as well. And then in terms of being a student on campus, I would definitely check out the Frugal Innovation Hub. It's social-based work. That's what I did for my senior design project. We did a project in the Galapagos. We were going to travel there too. So if you like to travel, do that. But as I mentioned, I graduated in 2020. So I did not see the Galapagos, but definitely check out the Frugal Innovation Hub to get experience while you're still on campus.
Was part of the question that you weren't sure if you wanted to approach that problem space as a computer scientist?
Exactly, yeah.
So I would think about, so that space, how did you phrase it? Like ethical ethics and tech?
Pretty much, yeah.
If you think about that space or really any space,
what you want to think about is, do you want to deeply understand this space, understand what the problems are and how you might fix them? If so, look at research. If you want to take that information and design the solutions, look at design. And then if you want to implement those designs and do the hands-on building it, then you want to look at engineering is how I would kind of roughly think about that space. I don't know, do you guys, would you align with that? Yeah.
I would, yeah.
So it applies to any topic area. And so any problem like that can be approached from any of those roles. Reach out to me afterwards also because I was listening to a podcast on exactly that on the way up here on that like ethical design. So there's some kind of industry I'll give you the information on the podcast.
Cool, that was a super meaty question and really awesome responses too. I think it makes sense at this point to kind of transition to the networking phase. If we didn't get to the questions that you have, please ask them to our panelists that are going to stick around for networking. So I think this will be kind of jarring, but like we can all like stand up and move around and talk to each other. But before we do that, actually, before you can stand, but don't move yet. I think we need to give a very large round of applause to our panelists. Very busy. They took time out of their day to come here. And so we're all very, very grateful to have you and grateful to have you network with our students too. So awesome. So have at it. And to help, just in case you feel a little shy about networking, we do have some tips here. Quick show of hands. How many people do we have in student works? Okay, perfect. So yeah, you guys, you're networking and you probably don't know it. Folks that have talked to people in their classes about stuff not in the class. I'm sure you've all done that. You all know how to network, right? Really just talk to people and ask questions. Here to help guide conversations, so feel free to grab more food and chat with our panelists. And thank you all again for coming.
I was saying, I don't know, this was the normal.
Yes, whoever.
So much.
No, I can't really you're getting a job. Yeah. I'm not here in. Yeah.
I don't know.
That's sort of.
Lawyers, I
Yeah.
I honestly also. Oh, really? Looks a lot better. Yes,
Oh, that is not a lie. I just. Okay, yeah.
I really want to know much. That's really interesting.